This is the patient, Shawn Pallier. She has been on Unit 9 since October 22nd, 1999. We have noticed several behavioral problems. Mrs. Pallier will speak of depression, anxiety, and suicide primarily when she is given attention by her family members. We are about to embark on a program that will change these inappropriate behaviors and thoughts for the better, with the cooperation of her family and all the staff on the unit. We need to focus on safe, productive topics. Now, these are the only things that are to be discussed with the patient. Conversations surrounding feeling ill in any way are to be completely ignored. Now, conversations must be redirected if they steer towards depression and anxiety. And if necessary, conversations must be terminated immediately. This strategy must be adhered to. Any statements about suicide are to be treated with the same strategy. In the true case of an attempt, there will be no discussion of the event. Mrs. Pallier will be given the appropriate medical care, and all parties are not to discuss it with the patient. Mrs. Pallier should get as much attention as possible when she displays behaviors that are acceptable. The optimal way to get her to change her thoughts is to communicate to her she will be ignored when she is negative and rewarded when she is positive. She will soon learn that it is her behavior that directly affects whether she is noticed or disregarded. If you have any questions about the program with the patient, call and leave a message if necessary. Everywhere my mom went, it was with conviction. I remember on the rare occurrence I would see her at work if I had to visit her for some reason. And she was always practically running, but in a way that was entirely Sheila-esque. She didn't run like an athlete or like someone in a hurry, but she had a low to the ground, focused, tunnel vision way of moving. And it might take several times to get her attention. Mom? Mom? Mom! Sheila! And then she might notice you, half embarrassed and half annoyed that you were there. But that had nothing to do with you. It was just that she had a job to do, and nobody was supposed to interfere. I mean, she had to take care of that whole nursing home by herself, or at least in her mind, and nothing was supposed to get in the way. And so you can imagine how deeply convicted she was to ending that strike. And she had just finished raising 2 exhaustingly energetic children, and she was going to use that money from that job to show us the world. Yeah, we'd traveled before, but only to the breathtaking roadside attractions of the Okanagan. The giant slide in Adventureland, the realistic stills of Bedrock at Flintstone Park, and the awe-inspiring Ogopogo, which I swear I've seen at least a dozen times. I mean, sure, all that stuff was great, but Mom wanted to show us the world. And she wasn't going to be able to do that if it wasn't for that job. So it was up to her. She fought, she picketed, she held meetings at the house. She was a fierce competitor, not backing down from anyone. And though she didn't see eye to eye with, she didn't really respect them anyway. So she mocked them relentlessly, to their face and behind their back. I know we're supposed to treat each other with respect, but this was the people versus the man, so this was war. What was most important to her was that she and her fellow nurses' voices were heard, and their grievances known to the very last detail. And that's what kept her fearless. And that's what kept her strong.
We're not seeing a very strong performance by the Edmonton Oilers. Down 4-2 and the crowd has been silenced. I tell you, it's like they're skating uphill out there. Here's McCammon into the zone, rips a drive, and it's high and wide and out of play. And they'll reset for the face-off. There's one woman who hasn't given up on the Oilers yet. She's been chanting, "Go Oilers, go," since the last stoppage of play, which wouldn't usually be worth mentioning if it wasn't really echoing throughout the Coliseum. You have to admire that sort of dedication, for a lack of a better term. It's quite determined. Who knows? Might be getting this crowd back into it. Here's Waite to take the face-off, wins it clean, jams it over to Guerin. Guerin whips it over to Ryan Smith on the far side. Ryan Smith breaks into the zone, drops it back to Mironov on the point. Mironov fakes a shot, back to Smith, the side of the net, and he scores! Ryan Smith at the side of the net, and it's a 4-3 their top line out there. Here's Waite to take the face off, breaks in the zone, drops it back to Guerin, booms the shot, and he scores! Bill Guerin on a seeing eye pass from Doug Waite, and it's a 4-4 hockey game. The Oilers just might hang in there and keep their playoff dreams alive, and I gotta tell you, it might have something to do with one diehard Oilers fan who didn't know when to quit. I can't find that game. No, it doesn't matter how many box scores I go through, I can't find it. I can't tell you who was against or who was really on the ice. Sometimes I have a hard time remembering a lot about my mom. I just have these flashes of really great moments surrounded by a sort of blur or haze. And sometimes I feel like I'm letting her down, like she deserves better. But it happened, because I was there. I mean, seeing her watch that game, you could tell how she felt about the crowd around her. And she had this sort of look on her face, a sort of, how dare you give up? There's still time. So suddenly, without warning, she jumped out of her seat and started yelling towards the ice. Go Oilers, go! Go Oilers, go! Go Oilers, go! Go Oilers, go! Over and over again. At first, I sunk down in my seat. For the love of God, Mom, you're embarrassing me, was all I could think. If I could have disappeared inside my jacket, I think I would have. But I think people started joining in because maybe they really were getting into it, or maybe they were just a little scared. You know, that if they didn't join in, that she would never stop. I mean, either way, it was working. It was a great rallying cry. She was always cheering for the underdog, always helping them win. And that was my mom when she was healthy. You never had to wonder what her opinion was because she never held back. The only time I would start to worry was when the self-expression stopped. She didn't get out of bed that morning. When the house was quiet and Mom was in it, it wasn't a good thing. I thought to myself, just leave her alone. I mean, she'll come downstairs when she's ready. She doesn't need you bothering her. So I waited. I remember standing in the doorway to the room, and it looked like she was sleeping. So I thought to myself, maybe if I just go over there and put my hand on her shoulder and give her a little pat and give her a little shake and find out if she was ready to come downstairs. So I went over to the bed and I sat down on the corner and I put my hand down so that I could lean in and gently wake her. But I realized where I put my hand down, the bed was wet. And I was immediately certain of what was happening. And she was doing it again. Mom, I'm scared. What did you do? She moaned a little. Mom, did you take something? She faintly nodded her head. Mom, was it pills? She nodded again. Mom, I'm scared. Can I please call an ambulance? She nodded. I asked her permission. I asked her if I could call an ambulance. To this day, I wonder, what would I have done had she shook her head no? What if I said, it's too bad, I'm calling one anyway? Or what if I let it happen? Right then and there. I mean, this was the first time I had someone's life in my hands, and this was absolute. Black and white. And I was finally there to witness it. This wasn't the first time.
Sometimes I wonder if we weren't all overwhelmed by a feeling of constant failure in that house. Because even if something good happened in my life, I was only happy because I wasn't adding to the chaos. Not because of anything I'd accomplished, but because I wasn't making anything any worse. All I could think about was the next time and what I could do to keep her happy so that it wouldn't happen again. Sometimes, maybe I wasn't thinking about her at all. Maybe I spent a lot of time being as selfish as humanly possible because I wanted to be away from there. So I spent my time on extracurricular, optional things, not being there. I should have been there for her when she needed me the most, but instead I was out there, fooling around with my friends, messing around with girls, ignoring the problem like an idiot. I should have kept myself to higher standards. I held myself responsible. It is my responsibility to understand her. What should have I recognized to make sure that it didn't get like this? And what do I do to make sure it doesn't happen again? And what do I do if it happens again? And what's it even like to be suffering like she is? I can make notes. I can find out a lot about her. I could find out what medication she's on. I could find out if it's the right medication. I could never get in trouble again. I could never get angry again, and I could never raise my voice again. I could disappear. There's got to be something that I should have recognized. I should have noticed when she was working too hard. I should have noticed when she wouldn't get out of bed. I should have thought it was funny when she was gazing off into space. I should have been more sensitive to her feelings. I should have at least talked to her at breakfast. I should have taken her emotions more seriously. I should have taken her reactions more seriously. I should tell her I'm sorry. How old was she when this all started, and how long did it take for her to get help? I think they've tried a variety of medications. I think maybe there was a time there was a better combination, and do we have the option to at least go back to that? How old was she when this all started? Did she go for help on her own at first, or did someone have to take her to get help? And how many different times has she been in the hospital? And has it always been because she's tried to take her own life? How many different ways has she tried that? Has it always been an overdose? And why do we always go back to the beginning and start all over again? It's my responsibility to find out. It's my responsibility to help her. I'm the distractor. I think that's a word they invented just for me. I'm sure Oxford Dictionary will add it someday. I think it would be best if I just took myself out of the equation. I think she could think clear if I wasn't around. Because, how is she supposed to really deal with things when there's always someone around trying to tell her jokes and tell her stories and try to manipulate her into thinking about just about anything else? But, on the other hand, what if without me she gets lost in her thoughts? Because depression is a slippery slope, right? And if there's no one there to throw you a rope, you just keep sliding further and further down. And who's to blame her? This isn't exactly the best time in her life. Her kids are growing up and they're leaving her. And maybe she's not ready for that. It's a big change. She's definitely not ready for that. So here we are. You would think in a hospital where, people are trying to get better. One of the most important things is that it would be a comforting environment. You know, a place that feels like home. But this place doesn't feel like home at all. I mean, this feels like a place where Martini, the Chief, and Mac might listen to Charmaine all day. I mean, do they really have to surround her with sick people constantly? Yeah, I know she needs me right now. But this is a really hard place to visit. I don't even think it's as bad as I think it is, but it's the fucking walls. The green walls. The hospital green, I think they call it. And the conversations with strangers. I mean, you'd think that if I could have a conversation with a room full of strangers, I could have a conversation with just one. But the people in here can be a little unpredictable. I mean, you never know what they're going to say or what they're going to do. You know, I don't think I'm going to be able to visit that often. Besides, she's not going to be in here forever. I'll see you real soon is the last thing I ever said to her. I don't know what to do with death. Back when I was a kid, I can only remember a couple of funerals. My Grandma Little's and my Grandma Pallier's. I don't remember anything specific, except for one detail. Back before I was about to see my Grandma Little's body for the first time, I was observing the ritual the others were involved in. Now basically, it went like this. Go up to the body, look solemn, cry into the chest or shoulder or whatever of the person next to you, and move on. I was pretty sure I could swing that. So, I went up to the body, looked solemn, tried to tear up, and I laughed, but I covered it up really well. I made sure to bury my head into my dad's suit, hoping the jacket would muffle any audible laughter. And I thought, if I jerked my shoulders just right, it might look like sobbing. Nailed it! I was pretty sure nobody noticed. But then the conversation came. Back in the car, my sister said something like, "So, was it hard for you to see Grandma? Did you cry?" I try not to hesitate. I cried pretty hard. No, you didn't. I was right there. You were laughing. There I was, laughing in front of my mom and dad and my sister and God and baby Jesus and Grandma's ghost all staring at me, appalled. But that's what happened, and I can't change it. You know, I can't say with any degree of certainty that I've ever cried when I'm supposed to. It's always during something stupid, like at the end of Homeward Bound, when Shadow's coming over the horizon even though you were sure he was dead. Or during a rock documentary when some underdog finally gets his moment to shine, and that's when I cry. I don't know what to do with death. I remember the night I got a phone call from my sister. She wanted me to go over to Mom and Dad's house, but I refused. Said something like, "Come on, what could be so serious I have to go over there at night? Did somebody die?" So my dad came and picked me up. And he took me over to the house, and there was a police officer and my sister in the house. And I don't think the officer even finished telling me that my mom was gone before my improv skills kicked in. don't know what to do. I don't know if I'll cry. I don't even know how I'm supposed to react. So don't just stand there, man. Go limp. So I did. And I slowly hit the floor. I was lucky. I was given permission to respond any way I liked when I was joined on the floor by my family. We were all in a sort of huddle, just looking at each other, realizing it had finally happened. I think my tears came mostly from relief, and I was disgusted with myself for that. I spent a lot of time not knowing what was going to happen with my mom. Sometimes I wish she would just die so there'd be an end to this. It's a thought I had more than once. But now I wanted that thought back. I mean, I wanted it back so bad because, as crazy as it sounds, sometimes I think of my life as a sort of Truman Show, and that you're all watching me, kind of like this, and that you can all hear my thoughts, and that maybe, just maybe, I caused this. Like if I hadn't have had that thought, the producers wouldn't have written it into the script. I mean, there we were in our huddle, and I was crying like I was supposed to, but maybe the reason was deplorable, but I don't know. I could have been crying tears of happiness because she was finally free, but I can't say that for sure. April 6, 2000. My mom took her own life at the Alberta hospital, and I was going to have to learn what to do with death. I went downstairs a few days later in what was now just my dad's house, and nobody was home that day. There was nothing so far. The only time that I actually reacted was when I found out. I had told my close friends about it, but there wasn't really any emotion. I just told them what happened and that there'd be a funeral. They'd like to come, that they can, and didn't want anyone to go out of their way, so no pressure. But I didn't feel anything. And I hated myself for it. So, I forced myself. I pushed myself to be normal, to be human, and to respond. I went into the bathroom and into the shower, all alone downstairs. And I didn't take my clothes off, but I did turn off all the lights. Because downstairs, I could make it completely dark if I wanted it to be. So I didn't have to have anything to distract me or make me think of something else. I could just sit down in the shower and try to be normal. And try to be human. So I called out to her. Mom? Mom? And I got louder and louder. I got so loud I was sure she would respond. When I'm in the dark, I like to think that I can time travel, or that maybe this is a dream, and then I'm just waking up and she'll be not in the hospital, not being taken away in an ambulance, not sad, not anything, just there. And I got louder and louder. Mom? Mom? But she didn't answer. And that made me angry. And you ever hear about John Lennon talking about primal therapy? Primal scream? All I could remember is that it might be a way, maybe a way for me to get whatever I was repressing out. To get out of my head and maybe find it in my body somehow. Well, I felt like a fucking idiot, but I gave it a try. Why seen it, so what? Now you'll never see what I'm gonna do or what I'm gonna be! You'll never know I'd be proud! Why didn't you want to see that? And I felt a little better. And it could have been all the shouting or it could have been all the blood rushing to my head, but it was almost like I was feeling something. Maybe I'm human after all. Now more than ever, I needed to know who was responsible for this. Because it doesn't make any sense. Why was she in here in the first place? It was because she'd become a danger to herself. She needed help so bad, she couldn't do it by herself. So as logic would state, she should never have been by herself. So it shouldn't have been possible. Where was the staff? I'd really like to know that. Because there's supposed to be 24-hour staff watching her at all times. So what was going on? They have security. They would have seen her leave her room, go down the hallway, into the staircase. She should not have been able to hurt herself. And she took her life on their watch. And they need to be exposed. They need to be shown for how incredibly incompetent they are. I will make a film. I'm gonna make a documentary. I'm gonna put one of them on the spot. I'll pretend like I'm doing a project and that it's just for a class and that it's just gonna be informational. But then, I'll get one of them on camera. What was Shawn Pallier specifically diagnosed with? Was there more than one diagnosis? And where's her file? What does it say? Did the shock treatment work? Did you even try anything besides medication and shock treatment? Do you even know what her triggers were? But then I stood before them. And they invited us to the hospital, all the staff that worked with their own unit, and we sat around a big table. But what did I say to them? Nothing. And I could see it in their faces, and I truly decided, even though I didn't understand, they weren't to blame. So who was? Now, she removed herself from us a lot. And that must have been nice. I mean that. It must have been really nice to be able to withdraw and be responsible for absolutely nothing. And she wouldn't even get out of bed to take a bath or get ready or anything. And when she did, we'd all have to walk around on eggshells waiting for her next outburst or accusation. So I guess this would have been the best way for her to remove herself from us completely. I'll never get another chance to say something to her again, but what would I say if I did? Nothing. Because I know who's to blame. I know the truth. It's me. Because I rarely offered her words of encouragement. I didn't offer her any help. The moment I was out of high school, I just moved off to some different city, way far away, and you saw how I treated her in the hospital. There was so much I should have said to her, and I didn't. So now, there was only one way to let everyone know what I should have said. My mom was important to many people for many reasons. For her family, she was a loving mother and wife, a caring sister and daughter, a supportive aunt and cousin. Her smile brought happiness to the whole room, and her passion enriched the lives of us all. For her friends, she was an open ear, a shoulder to cry on, and a cheerleader for their successes. For her coworkers, she was a fierce defender of their rights, a leader, a helping hand, and a voice when nobody would listen. But the best thing about my mom is she didn't do any of that to leave her mark so that people would remember or adore her, or because she had hoped to be promoted to a higher position, or because she even expected anyone to return the favor. She did it all because it was the right thing to do. She was completely selfless because that's the life she found to be perfectly natural. I didn't know how lucky I was to have her in my life. Sometimes I thought she was too strict, too blunt, too loud, too embarrassing. I didn't understand her completely, but now I wish every day I could tell her that I was very privileged to have her as my mom. I know it's too late, but I want to say the words to my mom that I should have said long ago. I'm proud of you, Mom. For the people you have changed for the better and the lives you have touched, I'm proud of you. The funeral was beautiful. The viewing a few days before, that was a different story. I mean, nothing seemed real to me so far. It's one thing to be told she was gone, but despite all logic, there was a part of me that needed to see her to prove that she actually wasn't alive. There was a starkness, a grim formality to the funeral home. And all that space around everything made me feel more alone than usual. And there was faint, indiscernible music playing in the background, which I remember realizing it was elevator music, so I thought, yeah, well, that's really the only logical choice given the situation. I mean, I wouldn't want to hear anything recognizable or inappropriate. Now, they made us wait a while before seeing her, so it gave me a lot of time to think. What was she going to look like? How's her face going to look? Serene and peaceful? Because I don't want to see any pain. I mean, how was I going to react when I saw her? Will her neck look okay? Are they going to do something to hide it if her neck doesn't look okay? I shouldn't be thinking about that. Is there going to be a smell? Fuck, I'm such an idiot. I mean, who even thinks like that? With all those thoughts swirling around in my head, they invited us in to see her. Now, suddenly, the music became quite audible in the room we entered, and I found that quite disconcerting. There was no lyrics, but I could pick out the tune. Rocket Man, burning up this fuse up there with bone. Christ. The journey across the room became quite bizarre given the soundtrack. I remember seeing her head, just the hair at first, and I realized something was not quite right. See, Mom never got too made up for anything, and she did her hair very simple. And there was no makeup to speak of. But once in a while, when she was feeling really wild, she would put on a tiny bit of blush and light lipstick. But looks like they decided to give Mom a makeover. Here was this woman with well done, curly, big hair, and she had on dark eye makeup, navy blue eyeshadow with an additional smokiness I didn't even think was possible. She had on a ruby red blush, and her lips were a deep Merlot. Yeah. I could feel the smirk on my face. This wasn't helping ground things in reality at all. And if anything, it was making things seem more dreamlike and surreal. But I relaxed, and all the tension left my body. So I knew we were going to have to say something to have her altered so that she could look more like herself, so I was very glad for the viewing. And in a way, I think it went exactly like I needed it to go. I don't know what to do with death. And at the time, it seemed death didn't know what to do with me, so we were getting along just fine. I can usually cheer myself up if I want to. You know, if things aren't going my way, I just give myself a distraction. It doesn't really matter what it is. It could be a movie, dinner out, or phone call with a friend, or maybe even a trip somewhere. And I remember well before all of this, when we decided Mom needed a trip somewhere. You know, it seemed like she was in a rut. Like, no matter how nice and comfortable we made things at home, she was sad. She was distant. She wasn't herself. Our family, we loved the mountains. And there was a time we went every year, and it was always at the right time. And the way I remember it, we all felt better after a nice long trip. And so, as logic would state, we decided to take Mom to the mountains. You know, the weather was perfect. It was a pleasant drive on a late summer day. I think we listened to oldies on the way down, and Mom was quiet. I think she slept most of the way. And we didn't get started out until later than usual. When Mom was feeling good, she was like a drill sergeant. She would have had us on the road just after 6 in the morning. But she wasn't feeling good, so we didn't get there until later, and we decided right away that it would be a good idea to go out to a lake and take in a trail. So, we went along a trail that followed a lake, and then it got really high at the end, and everything looked like a painting. And the sun was starting to set, so we decided to find a place to eat that was nearby at the lake. And Mom looked like she was feeling pretty peaceful, so I could tell the magic of the mountains was working on her. So we did eat near the lake, and there was just enough light left. We watched the fish jump out of the water. There's a magical feeling to that evening. I noticed a smile on my mom's face. Success! When Mom felt good, I felt good. When we got back to the hotel room, I noticed her smile fading, but that's okay. She's not a clown. I don't need her to wear a painted-on smile all the time. I figured she was still feeling good, just on the inside. But then the morning came. And she was sad. She was distant. She wasn't herself. So, I couldn't believe it. I had to say something. Mom, I don't understand. Don't you remember yesterday? We went on a great walk. We took some pictures. We even watched the fish jump out of the water. Wasn't that nice for you? Didn't you have a good day? And why can't you just be happy? Snap out of it. What is this accomplishing? Don't you want your life back? Don't you want to do something? Don't you want to feel something else? How can you stay this way when you know everyone around you loves and supports you? If you won't do it for yourself, then why won't you do it for us? And we want you back. Why won't you try? Because I just can't. Why couldn't she just reach out and grab hold of that good feeling and ride it out until she felt better? It's because she just couldn't. And it took me 15 years to understand what somebody meant when they told me that they just couldn't feel better. If I could have those moments back and change what I said, change what I did, but I just can't. And I have to be at peace with that. I love you, Mom. I'm sorry you feel this way. Just know that you are loved, and that's all I want to say. I'm letting you go, Mom, for the both of us. I'd like to think that someday I'll know what to do with death. And I'd like to hope that someday I'll know exactly what to say when someone tells me they're thinking of taking their own life. And I'd like to believe that someday I'll be perfect at understanding those around me with mental illness. But for now, I choose to forgive myself. After all this time, I feel relieved. I feel sad, I feel mad, and I feel happy. But I don't feel bad. We put a poem in the paper on the anniversary of her passing, and it ends like this. But when we saw you sleeping, so peaceful, free from pain, I could not wish you back to suffer that again. And I think a lot of people didn't understand why we put that in there. And maybe I was one of those people. But that's okay. Now I understand.